After my reading today, it spoke to me, and I thought that I'd like to share it with yourselves, because hopefully it would be an encouragement to you in the times of trouble, because it certainly made me think. It comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verses 47 to 53, the arrest of Jesus. Jesus was still speaking when the crowd arrived, led by Judas, one of the 12 disciples. He came up to Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus said, "Judas, is it with a kiss that you betray the Son of Man?" When the disciples who were with Jesus saw what was going to happen, they asked, "Shall we use our swords, Lord?" And one of them struck the high priest's slave and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, "Enough of this." He touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and the elders who had come there to get him, "Did you have to come with swords and clubs as though I were an outlaw? I was with you in the temple every day, and you did not try to arrest me. But this is your hour to act, when the power of darkness rules." There are 4 parties involved in this arrest, and their actions and reactions are very significant. I briefly mention the first 2 for now. There was Judas, the traitor, a man who had abandoned God for his own reasons. This can be left for discussion another time. There were the Jews who had come to arrest Jesus. They were men who had become blind and deaf to God, therefore unable to recognize that Jesus was God incarnate. Once again, would like to leave the discussion for another time, but we would do well to remember that not all the Jews were against Christ. There were the disciples. They were men who, for the moment, had forgotten God. Their world had fallen in, and they were sure the end had come. The last thing they remembered at that moment was God. The only thing they thought of was the terrible situation into which they had come. 2 things happen to those who forget God and leave him out of the situation. Firstly, they become utterly terrified and completely disorganized. And secondly, they lose the power to face life and to cope with it. In the time of the trial, life is unlivable without God. There was Jesus, and Jesus was the one person in the whole scene who remembered God. The amazing thing about him in the last days was his absolute serenity once Gethsemane was over. In those days, even at his arrest, it was he who seemed to be in control, and even at his trial, it was he who was the judge. Let us choose in desperate times in our lives to follow Jesus' example of involving God, to tap into his power, that we may stay focused and live in peace whatever may befall us. Let us not fall like the disciples when our world caves in, and to trust in only human abilities.